I actually don't think it's that hard to identify red flags in a potential partner. I think sometimes it's much more difficult to identify and to acknowledge the green flags. So I think the reason for this is because, especially as women, and maybe this is true for men too, you can speak to this if you want, but especially for women, we are like trained by society and media and even our friends to like point out all the imperfections and to make sure that we know where the sources of danger, so to speak, are around us. So it's like partly in our DNA, partly from society. So I think that identifying the red flags is not that hard for most women. And I think the green flags can be more difficult because it really forces us to self-reflect on what's actually important to us. Not always the superficiality of, is he the exact height that I want? Does he have the job that I want? Like those types of things. It actually forces us to go deeper into ourselves and be more present with the partner that's in front of us. So when we're talking about green flags, we could probably make a whole episode about this, honestly. But I'm gonna just share like 4 that came to my mind that I think are really important to me, but I tried to think of what could be universally helpful to anyone that's listening and wondering about this. So I think, in no particular order, but this one's high up there for me, a similar sense of humor.
Oh yeah.
This sounds trivial. I realize that, but it's really, really not, because life is hard. Laughter is medicinal, and it also invites laughing together and making jokes together and having a similar sense of humor invites more intimacy.
Bro, it's like it's as important as orgasming.
Yeah,
like,
it is.
Like
laughter is the cousin
of laugh, make me orgasm.
Yeah.
Let's orgasm together. Let's laugh together.
Yeah,
Dude,
totally.
It's so spot on.
Laughter and humor, it invites intimacy and closeness, flirting, even sexual chemistry. Like there's times where we're laughing and joking and it like literally creates this spark between us where we're physically close, we're smiling, we're in a good mood, and then we're having sex. So like it's real. And I think you understand it if you've ever been on a date or been around someone where your senses of humor are clearly like way different, or this person is 0% funny.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, boy, bye. If you are 0% funny, you could be the hottest person on the planet, which you are.
Wow.
Well, I had to reference my meme.
I believe it.
But you could be Brad Pitt level. If you're not funny, there is zero chance.
Yeah, Shania.
Yeah, right.
You know,
there's zero chance.
Much.
So I think having a similar sense of humor is really, really important. I think next up for me, are they interested in growth? It doesn't have to be the exact same areas of growth that you're interested in.
Like growing those delts, growing those pecs.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you're trying to grow your booty and the man is trying to grow his pecs, like that's okay. No, what I mean is, say you're on like a really spiritual path, and say the guy that you're seeing or, go on a date with is growing his business and launching his business as a startup, and he's really into that and he's passionate about it and he's excited to tell you about it. He's, penetrating the world with this mission, this drive. Like that's a really good sign. But that's also a non-negotiable for me, is having a partner who's interested in growth.
But relationship psychologists actually say having a shared generative drive, even if your drive for particular things are different, like career versus motherhood or career versus fatherhood or whatever, having a shared generative drive is actually one of the most positive indicators of long-term successful relationships.
Yeah, because it makes sense. If you are used to and accustomed to pushing yourself and growth, expansion, evolution in one area of your life, it's not really that hard to also apply those same characteristics to, say, like your relationship or growing together as parents or growing together in some type of spiritual practice or whatever. It's not that much of a leap.
Well, and think of how many relationships break down because one or both have a lack of understanding understanding or appreciation for change.
Yeah.
But if you're a growth-oriented person, you know that change is inevitable.
Yeah.
And so when your partner changes, you also know that it's inevitable. And so you come in with an appreciation, even if it's an indirect appreciation, for change and evolution, which is less triggering when your partner is going through a particular shift. And I think so many relationships fall apart when one partner is changing and the other person is like, I want to staying here,
stagnant. Yeah. I think that's very, very important. So are they interested in growth? Next for me, are they genuinely interested in you, your experience and your thoughts? Do they ask questions about you? You go out to dinner and you find that you're the person that's asking the questions. You're starting the conversation. You're interested in their family life, their career. And it's the questions that they're offering you is just, what about you? That's not necessarily like an absolute deal breaker, but if they are showing interest, coming up with questions or, really curious about your life, your feelings, your thoughts, and showing care. Like, I don't think you can care about someone without actually being curious and interested in them. So I think that's a really good green flag, is if they are, genuinely interested in you. Last one for me. Do you have similar values regarding your non-negotiables? And does their life reflect that? So what do I mean by that? I think, again, this comes back to knowing yourself. Knowing what you want, knowing yourself, having some level of self-reflection as you move into a potential partnership, dating scenario, whatever. What are your non-negotiables around, things like health, things like family? Do you want a family? Do you want kids? Are you a nature person? Do you love rock climbing? Is that a huge part of your life? And this is a non-negotiable part of your life.
Money.
Or your money. Yeah. Like, where are your values around these things? And which ones are like absolutely non-negotiable, not going to change? Like, Chase is unwilling to go into debt, which is great. Like, if we didn't share that value, there would be problems. So that's like a non-negotiable. So just come up with like, what are my things that are never going to change that I want to make really clear? And what do I need from my partner, my potential partner in this area? So if you really want 4 kids and dude guy doesn't want kids at all, obviously not a great match. So you have to come up with what your non-negotiables are. And you can't just necessarily, with some of these, you can't just take their word for it. You also want to be looking at their life. If they say like, oh yeah, I'm super active, I love working out, but they're like 100 pounds overweight, or like they don't own a gym membership, or you see no reflection in their life whatsoever that they enjoy physical activity, just, keep that in mind.
Yeah. I think that people, especially early, first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 dates, will tell you, and you don't have enough data yet to see if it's like really emitting off of their lifestyle. Yeah. And so give it some time, because like, trust but verify, like, believe what they have to say, but look for the evidence too. And because a lot of times guys will tell you anything to get in your pants, honestly. And they can. Oh
yeah, I love astrology.
They'll even fake it for a while until the acquisition is done, because men are so driven by the project of acquisition with a partner that if those things aren't core tenets and core values, once they acquire, they'll sunset them.
Yeah.
And they were modalities for the acquisition. They weren't actual core values.
Right.
And those will fall off as the relationship becomes more serious. So keep an eye out.
What about you, babe?
I only have a few to add, because you really nailed it. And I'm sure we could go on forever about these. But one that comes up to me is independence from their parents while also having love and respect for them. Because I think relationships will be ruined if you have a codependent relationship with your parents still as an adult, which, newsflash, is very common for people in their 20s, 30s, 40s. Or they just have an unhealthy connection to their parents still. Like, say they had a troubled upbringing. And if which, many of us carry around trauma from our parents. But if they've not moved into any sort of direction as it pertains to healing that, it could be a red flag. And so a green flag is this independence from their parents while also having love, respect, and adoration for the upbringing at large, whether it was positive or negative. If you're someone who had a negative experience through your parents and through your upbringing, but you can look back on it as if it was a beautiful lesson, or you have gratitude for what was the provision that took place, green flag, dude. Same with their past relationship experiences. If they view their past relationships as, I learned a lot about love, I learned a lot about, how to work through my own stuff. Even if they had ex-wife or ex-girlfriend or boyfriend, etc., exes, if they're talking about it in a positive light, green flag. Unless it's weirdly like they're still in love with their ex, obviously.
Yeah. Yes, that's not a green flag.
If you feel heard, seen, and you feel comfortable around them, not because they are agreeing with everything that you have to say, but because they actually value your opinion, all while maintaining their own identity and their own values, green flag. It's not a red flag if you have differences in the things that you're interested in. It's a green flag if they take interest in them. That doesn't mean copying everything that you're doing.
Oh, tell me more about that.
That's cool. More. Oh, wow. I know nothing about that. Please educate me or whatever. Like, that's a green flag. And then lastly, like, maybe it's too simplistic, but they're optimistic. They're positive. We live in a world of cynicism, pessimism, and that is low vibe stuff. Piggybacking on your point about humor is super important, but humor that is sarcastic, that's cynical, that's negative. Don't get me wrong. I'm a sarcastic motherfucker.
We love Tony Hinchcliffe humor.
Right. Like hilarious stuff, but
not on a partner.
I always use this analogy when it comes to humor. If you can be funny through criticism, through cynicism, through sarcasm, that's great. It'll definitely get you a laugh. But the next time you need to do it twice as hard, because that type of humor is fleeting. It's kind of like alcohol. The first drink, you get a buzz, great. But 2 months from now, you need like 3 drinks to get that same buzz. That's the same thing with like low vibe humor. If you're making fun of somebody, you got to make fun of somebody even harder next time to elicit the same type of laughter versus somebody who can be hilarious through positivity.
Yeah.
Someone who can look at challenging situations and not bypass them, but actually reframe them as an opportunity. If you find yourself looking at your life with more opportunity, with looking at the challenges, looking at hard days as if they're lessons, because you're around this person, man, that's a huge, huge green flag. Like, if you're finding joy in the smaller things, if you're putting your phone down, you're putting your vices down more because you've gained this appreciation through this person to just stop and smell the roses a little bit.
Yeah.
These are huge green flags. And so those are just some of the ones that came up for me.
Yeah. And so the last part of her question is, how can I focus on these green flags as opposed to the red flags? And honestly, I think it's like, do some journaling, right? Figure out what these are our green flags. If some of them resonated for you, great. Steal them if you want. Maybe you have, some of your own that are, more relevant or resonate more with you. Write them down, make a list, and focus on those when you go into a dating scenario. Like I said, the red flags are easy to spot. You don't need like a big magnifying glass for most red flags, especially at this point. You're in your 30s. You've been around the block. You've dated. You've seen some stuff. So I think make a list and just run through how maybe meditate on how you want to feel in a relationship, how you want to feel on a first date. What would that be? What would that look like? What would that, what would you be experiencing? And I think when you do that, it'll be at the forefront of your mind. And if that's happening on the date or in the experience that you're having, you'll know it.
Thank you so much for listening.
If you enjoyed that, check out right over here for some more fun clips.
Oh, and you're going to want to subscribe.
Bye.